I'm super happy to have you here all. If I see correct, it's 66 people watching now. That's really, really awesome. Thanks, Nike and the whole team for organizing this. And yeah, I'm excited. This is going to be an interactive session. So with 66 people, to be honest, I didn't expect so many. So we're going to have a logistical challenge later on in the part with the workshop tool that I'm using later. But we'll see how it works. I think now it's just good to get started. And yeah, let's go. Can you all see my screen? I hope so, because I briefly wanted to introduce you to the agenda. So I'm going to speak about what is purpose, or better, what is purpose not. I also brought a few examples of purpose in action, mainly well-known brands, so we all are able to relate to. And then again, I have prepared an interactive session with a workshop tool. Hope this will work out. If not, I'm sure there's a way to improvise as well. And yeah, if you have questions, please feel free to drop it into the chat. I will try to make some time if there are questions to answer them. And yeah, I think that was the housekeeping part. All right. Just a brief introduction also about me. My name is Karry, and I'm a brand researcher and a B Corp consultant. So most of the time I'm working in those two roles. As a brand researcher, I regularly deep dive into various consumer and trend-related topics. So right now, this is very much the topic of purpose, but it's also greenwashing and color washing, everything that is related to communication and how companies communicate their purpose towards their consumers and their customers. I also researched a lot about the topic of brand activism, and so this session today is very much the gift of both parts of purpose and activism. So we're going to touch upon both topics a little bit, and I really hope that after these 40 minutes you will have yeah, quite some inspiration and also a package of questions that you can bring back home and into your company, and yeah, for you to work on it. All right. So what is purpose? That is the big question. I want to touch upon this for a few minutes just because it's become such a great topic. You may have realized that it's on everybody's list, at least in my bubble. Everybody's talking about it. It's not only the pioneering, smaller, impact-driven brands that really build their business on purpose. It's also the traditional established companies and the big multinationals that have realized that purpose really has some, not only some, it really has the power to drive the good. And so I think after what I've researched is really the impression that it also got a little bit messy. So what happens if a concept is new, so the concept of purpose, if that is new, and people grasp it as the new trend that they need to keep up with, then everybody floods the scene, basically. And something that you can't avoid is that purpose also gets misinterpreted. It gets miscommunicated. So for me, it was, I felt the need to bring some structure into that topic, just because I see that there's lots of miscommunication, and to also give some guidelines around what is purpose and what is purpose not specifically. And in this sense, I'm asking the question, are we headed in the right direction, and what can we do in order to translate purpose in the right means? And because I just said that purpose often gets misinterpreted, I also, of course, want to give some indications of what purpose is. And I think one thing that is very, very important is that it's the reason for being, but beyond making money. That is, if you look into the mission statements or the purpose statements of companies, it's still very, very vague. It's not clear and often gets confused with statements such as, we want to become the #1 entertainment company, or we offer you the best product while we also save the climate. So there are things that we can do better. And the final thought on this is, and why I'm offering this session here now, is that purpose should be grounded in action. Because a purpose can be very, very abstract. You can define a purpose, a company can define a purpose, and just come up with some random thought without actually thinking it through what purpose actually means in action. So in order to make purpose tangible, graspable, understandable, and also feelable, I think the main, if there is one major takeaway you're going to take today, then it's definitely, it should be grounded in action. And I will show you a few examples of how companies did this. And then again, in the next step, you will also have the chance to figure it out yourself, given the exercise. If purpose is not grounded in action, I've created this chart here to give an idea how greenwashing and all the other terms that are emerging right now, right? There's also work washing, there's color washing, there's purpose washing. So basically miscommunication of sustainability or purpose related goals, that there is a fine line between greenwashing and activism. As more and more people take to streets to, fight for the climate or stand up for Black Lives Matter, that is real action. But when companies hook onto these movements and try to adapt their communication around their cause, then this quickly can escalate into greenwashing measures without actually anybody intending to do so. And I think acknowledging that there is a fine line between is the first step towards creating the right measures for every company and whatever they want to communicate. Before I come to the examples, just one last thought about why I think action is so important. So you probably heard the phrase, action speaks louder than words. And I think, first of all, this is very true. But it's not only that action speaks louder than words, it's also action is a form of communication. And until now, I think this is very much underrated, to see action as a form of communication. I mean, just imagine you thinking of creating the perfect present for your friends. That probably says much more than any letter that can express. I mean, this is also communication. You convey your message through whatever your action is. And so action in this case also makes your purpose very much meaningful. If you ask yourself, what is a purpose statement? A purpose statement is only a sentence written on a piece of paper or published on a website. It's nothing more. So in order for purpose to come alive, for people to see it, feel it, and understand it, it needs its expression in action and everything that you do every day on an everyday basis. And last but not least, purpose in action is also profitable. And I'm saying this not to steer the focus back on profit, but because, of course, in the end, every company needs to make an assessment of what it's doing. But purpose in the past has been proving on many levels that it's the good thing to do. and that companies who do it rightfully and companies who do it, do it effectively, that they're very much. But I was talking about Oatly launching a petition to make CO2 labeling on food products law. And that petition was launched 1 year ago. They also, of course, made a lot of advertisement and promotion on their social media. It went viral. They got a lot of support from local celebrities. And so they managed to get that petition into German parliament. They got over 57,000 signatures from people. And although we don't know what the outcome will be because it's still in the process, Oatly did a very, very good job in promoting this petition and getting a lot of people on board. And I think what is significant about this case is also, it's not only the petition that they launched, so actively engaging in politics and moving the people. They also managed to get many, many other companies on board and join their movement. So the little Postit that you see below are all companies that support their cause. So all of these companies, they all encourage the government to introduce CO2 labeling on food. And I think this is pretty exciting because, again, it's not only, Oatly as one company going forward and doing that petition, it's a whole movement that they've created around it. A lot of people spreading their news and spreading their cause. So that's been a very, very good example of how to create change also on a more, or trying to create change on a more systemic level. The change is not yet there, but the ambition is there. And the ambition itself is already something that takes a lot of resources to engage in. So, of course, every company would think twice about doing that. Again, what is important here to know is that Oatly was trying to create that change on a more systemic level, on not just only creating awareness through a big poster or a social media ad. Another example that I want to bring up, which is not such a good example. Actually, I think there was also a lot of wrong about the message. In this case, this is New Balance. So all of you probably know New Balance. It's a sneaker company. And after George Floyd's death, when the Black Lives Matter protests arose, they decided to donate 10,000 pairs of shoes to a Black community or Black community-based programs in the Atlanta area. And the reason why they donated these 10,000 shoes is they found that there was one Black runner who got shot during his evening run on the open street. His name is Ahmaud Arbery. And so what New Balance did is to take his name and to be donating these 10,000 pairs of shoes in his name to, again, Black community-based programs in the Atlanta area. So this, again, is not so ideal. First of all, the fact that they donated running shoes, it's really probably not the most, so what is questionable at this point is whether or not they really try to listen to the community and ask if actually running shoes is what they actually need. And I don't want to put too much question marks on this, but it just seems a little bit odd and a little bit off that just because there is one name who happens to be a runner, that they take his name and then make it a marketing activity. So I think there's definitely something to think about more. And again, if you want to create change on a systemic level and engage in activism, engage in brand activism, then the question is really, how can I as a company help to create the system that creates and reinforces mechanisms of oppression in the first place, because this is what Black people and the BIPOC community in the general are facing with. It's a structural discrimination, and it's probably not shoes that is going to save their life. So I'm being a bit drastic here at this point, but I think these are the kind of questions that we have to ask ourselves in any case. And I'm not trying to blame at any point, because I very much and I strongly believe that the intentions are real and that the intentions are well meant, and yeah, that the intention is good. But when it comes to impact, that is a huge difference. There's a huge difference between impact and intention, and this is also something that should always be in the back of one's head. I think time is advancing. I want to maybe just introduce two more examples, also well known, also here speaking about the topic of racism and creating change creating change in the system that perpetuates racism. In this case, it's Nike. Maybe you have heard about the case. Nike at one point decided to support an NFL player. His name is Nick Kaepernick. And what you see here in the presentation is a moment during a game where the national anthem is played, and usually everybody just stands up and sings the hymn. In this case, Nick Kaepernick decided multiple times not to go along, but to kneel down and refuse to go along. And this is has been a huge issue, a huge, also kind of like a scandal in the media. Lots of people accusing him that he's doing something which is really not okay. And yeah, he just gained a lot of bad publicity for this. In the end, it was his cause to raise awareness for racism. It was his way of doing that, and I believe he also did communicate so publicly. And a couple years, but not sure what the time frame is, but Nike at some point decided to take him as a testimonial and also prove to the public that they're supporting his cause. And it's also nice in this case because the purpose here is to unite the world through sport and create a healthy planet, active communities, and an equal playing field for all. So this sounds very nice. It's also, I think, very strong. And they do justice by going such a step. And it's also showing that they are willing to take the PR risk of really disappointing a lot of their customers. So I want to re-emphasize at this point that I'm really not trying to give too much space to these kinds of brands. I know I'm doing that right now, but I think it's important that we're talking about companies that we know, so we can relate to it and see also what the kind of impact is. And on the other side, we also have companies in fast fashion. There's also a lot of action happening in this space, and I see how companies are really willing to engage in that. But again, there's also a lot of greenwashing, and it's very obvious that the change on the systemic level is not given, and it's more about the communication that they're doing stuff and that they're putting action in place. But as long as these actions are not targeted and not targeted at the system, then the impact is not as great. So just to sum up this section, I want to show you my brand action versus brand activism pyramid, and what this one shows. And I hope you can all zoom in on it, because it would be a little bit of a pity if you can't read it. But what I'm trying to show is that any kind of brand action and brand activism activity has a different level of impact. So on the lower side, we have the measures that are not creating so much impact. So, for example, if I have an example here, Band-Aid, for example, after Black Lives Matter protests arose, Band-Aid decided finally to make their Band-Aid color inclusive. This didn't happen before, so it really only happened after the protest started. This is something that they needed to do in order to not lose customers. It was a measure that was necessary in order for them to save profit and save their revenues. So this is, it has impact, but the impact is rather small, again, because it's not on the systemic level. If we want to look back, then we have quite some measures changing the product or changing the logo because in the past it hasn't been inclusive or it hasn't been addressing the diversity of the society that we live in. These are more actions that are coming from the companies themselves in order to stay relevant and to address the issues that are trending and that are important to the people who buy your stuff. But then it goes up. And on the tip, you find those activities that are really creating that heavy impact. And that's also including getting involved in politics, for example, like Oatly did, engaging in environmental lobbyism, getting out there, addressing politicians, funding NGOs, donating to non-for-profit organizations that, anyway, they are the ones also addressing politics, but also working in the local communities. And this is also, I mean, there's a bandwidth of activity that you can engage in. And last but not least, the change of the business model. So if I were to speak about what is the most effective and most impactful thing that you can do as a company, then it is changing your business model in a way that is sustainable and that is not profit driven. Of course, you have to balance profit, planet, and people all together. That when a fast fashion company doesn't address the issue that it's producing one collection per week, then that's not activism. Then this is basically only their effort to stay relevant and not losing power and losing customers. So I hope this was I just hope that this is I could convey the core messages of this part, and I would now ask you to engage in my exercise that I prepared. It's the interactive session, and I would like you to work on Patagonia. And I brought this again as an example to gather your thoughts and your ideas and just brainstorm, because Patagonia is also a company we all know of, and I bet that many of you also are quite aware what kind of things that they are engaging in. We all know that they're very much about environmental activism, that they're about environmental awareness, and that they have different initiatives and projects going on. So in case you're not as aware, that doesn't matter. You can just brainstorm whatever ideas come up to you. So there is no wrong, there's no right, just get the ideas out. And just to set the stage right, I'm going to read out aloud their purpose statement, which is to build the best product to cause no unnecessary harm, use business to inspire and implement solutions to the environmental crisis. So this is their very dedicated purpose statement. And I will send you a link now into the chat. And this is a link that is going to a tool. It's called Nero. It's a brainstorming or a tool that you can also use for brainstorming. It will require you to sign up, and you can do so quite quickly if you are willing to use your Facebook or your Google account. You can also register via email. That's fine too. If you're feeling uncomfortable with this is fine as well. I'll send it. If you feel uncomfortable with signing up, don't worry, that's okay. You can also just use a piece of paper and just look at the screen and see what kind of questions I'm going to ask. And it will take you 1 or 2 minutes, I guess. And maybe if you have signed up, you can just send a quick note into the chat, and then I know. And I will then guide you through the exercise. Awesome. I can already see a couple of you. And we'll just wait 1 more minute. Awesome. Okay. All right. I think I see at least 4 of you in the board, in the frame. And awesome, Federico. Great. Okay, so this is a framework that I use to have an overview of the different stakeholders. So what is important with brand activism? Brand activism is not only targeted at politics or at conveying the message to the customers. There is action that you can take towards all stakeholders, including customers, suppliers, communities, and then of course also the environment. And the reason why I chose Patagonia is they have been active in all of these areas, and I am giving you this framework so you can just take your Post-it and drop your idea on there. Oh, sorry, no, that was the wrong. Let me check. Okay, so on the left side we see the stakeholders, employees, suppliers, governance. With governance, by the way, is meant the corporate governance, so the way your company operates strategically, and then also towards employees. So everything that is related to how your company operates, that is governance. Then we have the communities, the environment, and the customers. And then above, you can see the 3 levels of impact. So as I was saying before, every activity and any initiative that you are taking on has a different level of impact. So I just divided between big, really big, and huge. And just to give a start, I have inserted a couple of Post-its already, just to give you an idea and a head start. But you can also just go wherever you feel you have some input and add it on there. One example I'm going to guide you through now here below. If you find the customer, I've inserted the Post-it, help customers prolong the lifetime of their clothes. This is something that Patagonia is engaging in for decades already. For them, it was important to produce less and therefore produce clothes of higher quality. So for them, it's not only about them producing higher quality clothes, but also creating the awareness for customers and help them also prolong the lifetime of the clothes. So this is one description, and one impact initiative is to launch an education campaign. Patagonia has done a lot of education around how to use your clothes. They've also launched a repair service, which is also, I think, one step closer to, or at least one step higher on the impact level. If they offer a repair service, they're really showing their willingness to take back the clothes and repair them, send them back, and encouraging people to keep their clothes longer. And yeah, maybe there's even a higher impact initiative. I think this is the moment for me to hand over to you. You have 5 minutes, not more, and maybe even just 4 minutes. And then we're just going to take a look at the board together and see what you guys have come up with ideas. So, ready, steady, go. Awesome. Okay, Annabelle, you're the last one to go. I see that you just just type in your Post-it. I already see a lot of, yeah, good and important measures. All right. Thanks a lot for putting in your Post-its. I already see that it's been very successful. I just don't know, like, I think there are some in the room who cannot watch the wall, right? If that's the case, I'm not sure how to introduce it, but otherwise I will just comment it, and I think that might be fine as well. Okay, let's start with the environment. Someone added that Patagonia is part of the 1% for the Planet initiative. Yes, very, very important. They've actually also co-founded the initiative. So that means 1% of their profit goes to environmental organization and other environmental projects. And I would even say that this has quite not only a big impact, but maybe even a bigger impact. But of course, this is to be discussed. But I think just because of the amount of money that flows to environmental organizations, that definitely has a lot of impact. And so I would probably put it a little bit more on the right side, but still very good. On the customer side, we have added, yes, the fact that Patagonia offers a second-hand clothes channel. So they do not only offer repair service, but they also offer to take worn clothes back and resell them second-hand. Also very, very important because whatever piece of clothing that does not land on the landfill is a resource not wasted. So again, it's a very effective measure to prolong and help customers prolong the lifetime of their garments. And then also, one of you added that Patagonia is transparent of the whole production life cycle and the internal structure of the company. Yes, agreed. Very much transparency, very important point to acknowledge. I would probably put this more on the left side, and also because it's also not addressing the business. I mean, it's addressing the business, but it doesn't address the underlying system of the business. But it's definitely something I would add. And maybe this one also goes more to the governance issue. So maybe I would just put the Post-it on corporate governance. And I will just introduce maybe one more, because then I also need to wrap up the session. With the suppliers, one of you added that Patagonia gives suppliers a voice to have an impact as well regarding the production process. And the next one is also Patagonia is guiding or directly supporting suppliers to improve ethical and environmental practices. Yes, very much. It's not only that Patagonia outsources their production, they also actively get involved in the production practices and take care of how the suppliers are treated and how their working conditions are, and how they can advance their own environmental practices. So if dyeing is playing a role, then they would also take responsibility for them to provide them with the knowledge and technology that enables them to create the garments environmentally friendly. Yeah, sorry, Jessica, you were mentioning I could share the screen. I actually could have done that, but I did forget about. I hope anyway that a few of my points have been clear. In any case, you can always contact me, and I'm happy to share the presentation as well and the results. And just to have 2 minutes, maybe 2 minutes more of a summary, because this is also what I'm writing down here on this slide, also the gift of my research process in the past, because although I would love to give you, that guideline to put purpose into action, purpose is always also a very individual process. So what I mean is, like, it's something that it's a journey that you are onboarding on. It's also a journey that the company is onboarding on, if we're speaking about brand purpose or a business purpose. It's not something that I can teach you, or it can't be taught. It also can't be obtained. It's really a process everyone needs to engage in, and it's a process that also requires patience and an open mind. And what I want to emphasize here as well, because every company now is talking about purpose, it's actually a mindset shift. It's not a framework that I can just, give out, or that can be applied, and then, you have your brand purpose action strategy. It really requires a shift. I'm probably speaking to people that are already aware about it, but I think in any case, or in any level of engagement you are also in, it's something that you can re-emphasize and reconvey. And for me, it's also a great source of creativity, because if that purpose is clear, there's lots of stuff that you can do out of it, and make the world a better place in the end. And I think that with what we're seeing right now, with the type of movement that we're seeing right now, this is happening. And I'm really celebrating that, but also let's make sure that we're steering the conversation in the right direction. So that was it from my side. I hope you enjoyed it. Again, contact me anytime, LinkedIn, or via email, and happy to share my presentation and the insights. Thanks a lot to you all. Thanks for coming by.